Hey guys, we had this media roundtable Tupper Henning this week, and I'm going to post the whole video, but the whole video is around about an hour, so I thought I'd break it up into a couple of shorter clips so we can get some of the issues out a bit quicker. The first one I'm going to do is just I asked Tupper just about the amount of times refs get challenged in games, and he's answered that, and just the protocol for captains asking questions, and there's another clip that comes up after this, which was a colleague of mine there in Galway, William Davies, who asked him about the amount of shouting and challenging of referees there is. So I'm going to try and put both of them together in this clip, and you can see the refs are getting a bit hurtful, to be very honest. Amount of challenging. I've been told privately it's mainly players from Ireland that keep on doing this. They're the worst transgressors. But I suppose all teams have a hand in this as well. So here's Tupper. I'll leave him to take it, and I'll follow it up with William's question as well, and you can see the whole thing for yourself.
Great stuff. So we'll go Brendan first, followed by Nicholas, and then Stephen Nell as well. So Brendan, over to you.
Thanks, Adam. How's it, Tupper? I hope you're well. Just on a two-part question. One, I know that going into the playoffs, you've always got protocols that you want the refs to, or tendencies that you want them to focus on. Maybe you can talk about just some of the focus areas and what you're seeing in the game during the league season, what you want them to focus on during the playoffs. And then secondly, and this is totally anecdotal, I don't actually have stats to back this up, but I just wanted to get your opinion. There's a general feeling that we're seeing a lot more player challenges of referee decisions, that teams are maybe trying to egg a referee on to look at a head contact situation a lot more in the game, obviously knowing what the advantage they can get out of that. I was just wondering, if you obviously monitor this every week and you speak to the referees every week. Is there a tendency that players are challenging these decisions more, or is it just one of those things maybe happens in one or two games?
Yeah, Brendan, thank you so much. Just to go to the first one, I'm having a meeting tonight with our playoff group of match officials to just align and make sure that we are all aligned what our expectations are around the key areas of the game, and then also what you've mentioned now as well about player challenges and the relationship with captains and referees and where the boundaries are with that. So we're going to have that meeting tonight, and the teams will be informed about the outcomes and agreements. Nothing is really going to change. We're just going to focus on that we are all aligned and have some reasonable consistency in our match officials. Specific tendencies in the game, there's nothing specific in the game that we are concerned about, although player safety remains our priority, and that will be top of the list for the playoffs as well. It remains a priority with World Rugby, and we are aligned to World Rugby to support that agenda. The other part, bits, parts, and pieces, is referee what's in front of you. Referees the scrum as each scrum develop, and as it happens, each line out, each maul, each tackle, and make the best decisions appropriate to that situation. And then also, what is important for us is we need to contribute to the game what he deserves. So if there's a difficult game that forces the referee into more decisions, we are prepared to do that. But we play our part. If the players open up the game and they want to really play, we will play along with that. So it will be very important for us as a group to also identify what the approach of the teams are. Playoff matches is once-off games. It's win or lose. It's win or die or finish the tournament. So the attitude of players is a bit different from pool games. We are aware of that. We prepare for that, and we are more than happy to deal whatever comes our way. So our focus will be to contribute to the games as much as we can and allow the teams to play, but we also need to take our responsibility of to ensure fairness during the game. The player challenges is a good question. We've seen that players are now aware of the systems that's in place, and there is a facility that it can be looked at after the incident has happened, and that's why the players is asking for more reviews. And it's not trying to really influence the referee to change a decision. But the players want fairness, and that's their effort that they bring to the field, being aware of the technology that is available. That is why that is probably increased. At the start of season, we had an agreement between the clubs and us as URC match officials, which is aligned to what World Rugby wants us to do, is to allow a captain to ask a question to the referee when it's relevant and at an appropriate time without stopping the game, and inquire about the decision, and the referee will answer. And if the referee is not aware of the incident that he's referring to, the referee will ensure the captain that all incidents are being scrutinized in the background, and if action is required, the TMO will make them aware. There's also boundaries within that. If the referee believes that the captain is, at every time the whistle go, a captain approaches him, the referee will draw the line in the sand. We've had enough. We cannot have this every time. In a very nice, appropriate manner, in an amicable way, get a better understanding of when the captain can approach him. We don't want to show captains away. What's irritating is there's 4 or 5 different players from a team. That will definitely not allowed. But good relationship between a captain and a match official helps with the management of the game and helps with the management of the team. So we support that. But we do have the boundaries of when and how the captain can approach the referee when it is appropriate. So there is an agreement between the teams and the coaches to accommodate that in our game, and that contributes to a better cohesion between match officials and the players on the field. So messages can be relayed to players or to teams through their captain. And we as match officials do our very best to accommodate the captains when there is substance to the question, and we try to understand the question and answer what the need of the captain is at the time. And then if we do not have that, we will ensure the captain that it will be scrutinized without asking. It is being scrutinized in the background. I hope that answers your questions, Brendan.
Final one for me, Tapa, and this goes back to sort of on-field behaviour. We have access when we're broadcasting to the ref link and atmosphere. The amount of shouting and roaring that players are indulging in and referee advice seems to just get worse season by season. Some players can't help themselves. You get to know the voices. What can you do to cut that out? Because that must be very difficult for a referee when somebody's shouting offside, knock on, whatever it is. It's just noise in the background. Should they be able to just sanction a team by either giving any player they feel like a yellow card and saying, well, you were shouting, so you have 10 minutes on the sideline just to calm yourself down? But are you looking at that? Because it's definitely, in my opinion, getting worse from and where it was sort of 5-6 years ago. It's at a different level now.
Yeah, William. Yeah, a very good observation, and I fully agree with what you've said. It is becoming to the extent that it's excessive. I have discussed with colleagues of mine what our approach should be. We do not want to go into a zero tolerance, but if it does not improve, as from match officials' end, we will get to a point where we will apply a zero tolerance philosophy to that. At the moment, the referee will try to manage it early in the game and request the captain to take control of his player and tell his player we do not need that advice and shouting, and then protect the relationship between captain and referee. And then that needs to be in a courteous manner as well, and not excessively during a game. And the referees are required to use good judgment when they believe it is excessive, and then draw the line in the sand to what's allowed. That will be one of our discussions that we will have with our group tonight to make sure that our playoff remains a spectacle. And these are our top referees in our competition. They've been around for quite a while. All of them has got a lot of experience in the game, and they will deal with it appropriately. We do not want to overreact. We understand reaction of players. We understand disappointments of players verbalizing their disappointment when they disagree with a decision. We do not really want to overreact. But if it gets to a point where the referee draws the line in the sand, we would expect players to then respect that. And then for the rest of that game, the referee will then apply that standard that is set early of what's acceptable and what is not. We've seen in games where even captains has been penalised for shouting at the referee and screaming at the referee for a decision. The law supports that. There's a specific law in the law book in law 97C, which is actually a provision which is that a player is not allowed to do anything that would bring the match officials under the impression that, or try to convince the match officials and bring them under the impression that the opposition has committed an infringement. We do not want to go and chase that, because players is emotional on the pitch. They involved. They at a high tense. They're very tense, and they want to perform well, and they are disappointed and disagree with some decisions. But we, as match officials, will need to draw that line. And in this playoff part of our competition, that will be discussed tonight, and that will be our approach will be to handle it better than what we've done in the pool games previously.
Thanks, Tapa. Catch you again. Thank you.
You just asked about the referee advice. Just we support our referees to manage certain situations where they don't really need to give a penalty, and if there's an opportunity to tell a player, you're on your knee, leave the ball. Depending the context of the game, whether it should be a penalty immediately because it spoiled the game, or whether the player was legal at first, then on his knee and keeps his hand on because he believes he's legal. If there's opportunity, as an example, to talk that player off to let go of the hand, he lets go of his hand, the ball becomes available. We try to do that. It's a art. That's part of the art of refereeing, for referees to read that situation in the context. When can you manage? When do you need to play advantage? When do you penalize immediately? And it all is relevant to the situation on the pitch and the good judgment of the referee, the impact, the immediate impact that the infringement had, or the player was legal and then down to the knees and cannot compete anymore. So we try to find a bit of balance. I'm just using that as an example, to not really give advice or coach players, but to try to contribute to the continuity in the game, where there is a very minor thing happening that doesn't really impact on the immediate play, to play through it and not apply law and penalize every single thing that you see a player, three fingers on the ball, now we penalize them for holding on. So we try to find a bit of better balance with that, and that's our contribution to the game as well, for continuity and some flow in the game. We cannot create that, but we can contribute by smart refereeing when the opportunity shows itself, to then manage to help the teams then to continue playing without another stoppage and another penalty. I hope that makes sense, William.
Certainly does, Tapa. Thank you.
Thank you so much.